Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and man, 2022 is just flying by this year. Can you believe it is April already? Where does the time go? Today we're going to be talking about why the 13th Doctor is the bestest Doctor of them all. She is, of course, the fan favorite. I know, I have seen the Twitter feeds, and it is all abuzz with Jodie Whittaker and how amazing the 13th Doctor is. And I figure if I see it on Twitter, it has to be true. So today we're going to talk about why the 13th Doctor is the bestest Doctor and why none of the other Doctors even come close. We have 5 reasons we're going to talk about. And one, we're going to start with Jodie Whittaker. And one of the reasons why she is the best Doctor is because she took absolutely no time whatsoever getting bogged down with learning about the character and the lore. She didn't waste any time on that. She didn't sit there and go back and learn about who the Doctor was or watch any of the other old shows, because what do we need to do any of that for? She knew she wanted to do her own thing with it, so she didn't bog herself down with the details about, what the show's really about, what the character's like. And this really shows in her portrayal. You can see this come across a lot of times, that she is doing her own thing with this Doctor. It's stuff never been done before. I think all of Doctor Who fans have watched her Doctor and been like, I've never seen the Doctor like this before. It's definitely a new style of Doctor. I think most people can agree. Now, she was given this advice from Chris Chibnall, who also decided to do new things with the series. He decided to get rid of the serial format, go back to episodic episodes, bring back none of the classic villains, do entirely new villains. And this went over really well with the fandom. It went over so well that the next series, he dropped that idea completely, did a complete 180, because when you are doing something good in a TV show, people hate getting the same thing over and over again. And the last thing they want is to get more of what they just got. So Chris Chibnall, knowing that Series 11 was so popular and that so many people liked it, knew they wouldn't want that again. So that, of course, is why he went a completely different direction in Series 12 and came up with that wonderful Timeless Children retcon that completely changed the lore, because the lore had gotten stale at this point, let's be honest. All of us were sitting here, I know, right before that episode aired, I was just sitting there going, this lore is so boring, it's so stale, I need to air it out, put it up on a clothesline, knock some dust out of it. I need to do something to clean this lore up. And Chris Chibnall must have gotten my email, because he was like, that is ingenious, so I'm going to completely retcon stuff. We're going to get rid of Hartnell as the first Doctor. Because, I mean, who actually likes Hartnell as the first Doctor anyway? I don't know too many people who are big on that idea. And so we're going to bring in more Doctors, past Doctors, unknown Doctors, and we're going to diversify the Doctor so we can bring Doctor Who into the 21st century, and that has gone over well. And because of that, we have added diversity to Doctor Who, and by diversity, of course, as we all know, diversity means less white people. That is the definition of diversity in 2022, because apparently nobody born in the 21st century knows what a dictionary is. But it has really gone a long way to solidify the 13th Doctor as the best Doctor, because she is so different from any other Doctor that came before her. We're going to circle back to that point in just a minute, but first I want to bring up another one, which is that another great thing about Chris Chibnall and Jodie Whittaker is that Jodie Whittaker's acting is perfectly in sync with Chris Chibnall's writing. How often in Doctor Who have we had the Doctor's acting and the head writer's writing perfectly in sync with each other on a lot of their stories? Not all of them, but on a lot of their stories, it's uncanny how they reflect each other. I'm pretty sure there are a lot of Doctor Who fans who have watched Chibnall episodes and they've been like, wow, it's just amazing how much her acting mirrors his writing. I mean, two sides of the same coin. They're perfectly in sync. It's been very rare in Doctor Who you've seen this combination. Tom Baker and Douglas Adams were really good at being in sync like that. Bob Holmes with anyone. Terrence Dicks with the third Doctor. We've seen a lot of that, but not to the extent that Jodie Whittaker and Chris Chibnall are just perfectly in sync with the quality of their acting and writing. I guarantee you, Bob Holmes and Terrence Dicks, if they were still around today, they would be in awe of Chris Chibnall. That would be that would be their goal. They would want, that would be what they want to achieve, to be able to be in sync with their actor playing the Doctor like that. That would be their ambition. So it's really neat that we have a writer and an actor playing the Doctor that just seem to get on so well they can finish each other's sentences, almost like a Barry Letts, Terrence Dick situation. It's interesting how they mirror each other, and I think that's another reason why Whittaker is obviously the bestest Doctor ever. Going back to the point earlier with number 3, and that is that her Doctor is unique. Because she didn't take the time to learn any of the lore or anything about the character, her Doctor is very unique. Very unique. Like, you know, all the previous Doctors who had that silly little self-confidence thing going on. That's an old hat at this point. I mean, weren't you sick of that? The Doctor being self-confident all the time? The Doctor being in control of the situation all the time? Doesn't that get old after a while? The Doctor just feeling like and oozing that he's the smartest person in the room all the time. We've had that for like 54 years. I need something different from my Doctor. And that's the great thing about this Doctor. She has no self-esteem from like Spyfall onward. She's always self-doubting and self-loathing. And she very rarely has control of the situation because most of the time she doesn't actually know what's going on. She's usually about 37 steps behind the current events happening around her. And that's great. That's great because this Doctor, more than any other Doctor, has to try harder. And that's one of the reasons why she is so amazing, because she has to try so much harder. This is the Doctor at her worst, and because of that, this is the Doctor at her best. Because when you're at your worst, that is when you're at your best. And because she has to try so much harder, and because she succeeds, that's why she's the best Doctor. Now think about it. How many times have you been watching the 13th Doctor and you're like, wow, this is the lowest self-esteem I've ever seen the Doctor have, or I've just never seen the Doctor so unconfident before and so lost in the situation. I think there's a lot of Doctor Who fans out there who have really experienced this while watching her Doctor, where they just seem, wow, she seems so lost and unsure of herself. And because of that, that makes her stronger. When she's at her worst, she's at her best. And that is why she's the best Doctor, because she's able to overcome all of these challenges, all of these many challenges, and manage to succeed. She's definitely the most unique Doctor, and that deserves points. Number 2 is the lack of communication with her companions. Because the Doctor also has this weird thing where he gets along with his companions in the previous incarnation. It isn't that an old hat at this point? So now we have a brand new Doctor that doesn't have any rapport with her companions at all. And it's such a nice change of pace. The companions actually have more rapport with each other. Yaz and Ryan have a little bit. Graham and Ryan have a lot. Graham and Yaz have a little. It seems a little forced at the end, but it's there. Whereas the Doctor and the companions have no chemistry whatsoever. Isn't it great? Her Doctor is terrible at dealing with companions. Like when Graham tries to have the cancer talk to her. Any other Doctor would have had a nice heartfelt conversation with her. Like Patrick Troughton and Victoria in Tomb of the Cybermen. And we would have had to listen to a really good speech. And aren't you sick of really good speeches in Doctor Who from the Doctor? Instead, she says something awkward because she doesn't get on with her companions at all. And I'm sick and tired of the Doctor talking to her companions all the time. Aren't you? It just feels like an exposition dump. There's got to be better ways to write that into the story. Like, for instance, you could just put a bunch of nonsense in there. Just put a bunch of nonsense in there to explain the exposition. A bunch of nonsense that doesn't make any sense. We call this the Stephen Moffat method, but Chris Chibnall has adopted this very well to help move the story along. And the great thing is the Doctor hardly even has to talk to the companions. That is fantastic. I absolutely adore her unique take on the dynamic of her with her companions, which is basically nothing. And still one of the companions is in love with her anyway. Isn't that impressive? That is impressive. That you could just have no rapport or chemistry with a character whatsoever and they still love you. That is impressive. And another reason why she is one of the best Doctors ever, ever, ever. And of course, number 1 on the list, the main reason why Jodie Whittaker is the bestest Doctor ever, She has a vagina. And really, that's the only thing you need on the list. She has a vagina, and we've all known that that's all it really takes to make a good doctor. Just have a vagina. The next doctor, if they have one, I know that the Twitter people are going to love it, and they're going to automatically, even before one of her episodes airs, or right after her first episode airs, they're already going to be touting her as one of like the top 2, because Whittaker might get one, maybe the top 3, Martin might get one. And she'll definitely be in the top 3 because of how brave she is, and she has a vagina, and that makes all the difference. And she won't have to worry about things like self-esteem and self-confidence and presence or charisma, because that vagina is going to make up for all of that. It's already been a proven fact with Jodie Whittaker, and I know because I have seen the Twitter feeds, and I know if I see it on Twitter, it has to be true. So thank you, Twitter. Thank you for fighting so hard for Jodie Whittaker, and for fighting for her doctor, and for standing by her doctor no matter what Jodie Whittaker says, because some of the stuff she says has, I'm sure, pleased some of the fans, the ones on Twitter. And the great thing about Twitter is that it has made such strides in letting us know all of the social injustices we need to fight, all of the wrongs there are out in the world, and all of the things we can do to make them better. And they do all of this by telling us just how bad it is to judge people on race, and just how bad it is to judge people on gender, and just how bad it is to judge people on sexual preference, and just how bad it is to judge people by sexual orientation. And they do all of this by letting us know that cis, straight, white men are just terrible and the worst. And that, of course, is the best way to get your point across. So I want to commend you for that. And the great thing about this is Jodie Whittaker has gotten Twitter's stamp of approval. And at the end of the day, isn't that the goal of every sci-fi franchise in 2022? To get that very highly sought after Twitter stamp of approval. Thank you, Twitter, for helping us shape the current direction of our sci-fi franchises. We couldn't do it without you. Thank you for helping us fight all of these social injustices by telling us just who all the bad people are and all the rights we need to wrong. Thank you. So that is why I think these 5 reasons, that is why Jodie Whittaker is the bestest doctor ever. And I know any real Doctor Who fan out there will agree with me, because if you don't, then you're misogynist, and you're racist for some reason, and you're sexist, and you're transphobic for some reason, and you're homophobic for some reason. So, because that's just how it is. So, if you have liked this video, I have a Patreon, and if you would like to contribute to that, there is a link to my Patreon down in the description below. My entry-level tier is only $2 a month, but my highest level tier is $20 a month with several in between. I want to give a shout out to 2 of my top-tier patrons, Stephen Crane and the 5th Doctor, because I appreciate their continued support. I also have a P.O. box. If there is anything you would like to send me, Doctor Who related or otherwise, my P.O. box is down in the description as well, as is also a link to my Amazon wish list, if you wouldn't mind taking a minute to check that out. But if not, then I would just appreciate you clicking the like button and clicking the subscribe button and the bell for notifications so you never miss out on another video. I do a new video every day. Most importantly, though, happy April Fool's Day. And of course, they do this because they do want to appease the Twitter crowd. Because after all, these people who are so loud and vocal on Twitter, these newer fans, they are, of course, the ones who buy all the merchandise. Everyone knows that it's the people who've only been fans of the show since 2005 or later that actually buy the merchandise. The people who have been watching the show who are, in their 40s, 50s, 60s, Classic Who fans, they don't buy merchandise. They never buy merchandise. That's why the collection box sets sell so poorly. The animations sell so poorly. That's why they've stopped the animation. Because none of us buy them. Like me, I'm a Classic Who fan. I don't own any Doctor Who media myself, physical media. Not a thing. You won't find any Doctor Who DVDs or Blu-rays in my house. No siree.